as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. For what purpose does Mr. Crane seek recognition? Recorded vote is ordered by Mr. Crane from Arizona. As previously announced, further proceedings on the question will be postponed. And that was all you, Mr. Donalds. Our next item for consideration is H.R. 5438, the Incentivized Savings Act. The clerk will please designate the bill.
H.R. 5438, the Incentivized Savings Act, a bill to incentivize federal agencies to create savings for the American people and for other purposes.
Without objection, the bill shall be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. Without objection, so ordered. The chair recognizes himself to offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute. The clerk will please designate the amendment.
An amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 5438 is offered by Mr. Comer of Kentucky.
Without objection, the amendment is considered as read, and the substitute will be considered as original text for the purposes of further amendment. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes to speak on the bill. Federal agency spending continues to grow while the national debt continues to rise. We're in a grave financial situation, which requires innovative solutions. The Incentivized Savings Act addresses a perverse incentive presented by the annual federal budgeting system. Agencies are incentivized to spend every dollar they are appropriated before the end of each fiscal year, even if they don't actually need to. It's an open secret in Washington. Agencies fear that their budgets will be reduced if they do not completely spend all appropriated dollars, so they wastefully spend money on things they don't actually need before the end of the fiscal year. The Incentivized Savings Act intends to flip such a use it or lose it incentive. This bill would authorize agencies to retain 49% of their expiring funds for an additional year, thereby incentivizing agencies to save such appropriated funds instead of spending them on things they don't need. 2% would be made available for retention bonuses, rewarding employees who identified appropriated funds as wasteful. And 49% of the identified expiring funds go toward paying down the national debt. I want to thank Representative Richard McCormick for taking the incentive to raise a taxpayer savings proposal for this committee's consideration. I now recognize Mr. Walkinshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I strongly oppose this legislation. Despite advocating for agency incentives to identify savings, it contains significant legal, constitutional, and technical problems that would make it both harmful and unworkable. The Trump administration, as we know, has taken drastic actions to illegally withhold and impound funds that it's opposed to in violation of appropriations law, and this is a bill that would actually incentivize those actions. The GAO has already found at least 5 instances to date of the Trump administration violating the Impoundment Control Act, the law, and more of those decisions could come in the future. The administration illegally froze and cut federal funding for 5 states. OMB also announced a government-wide initiative to identify federal spending provided to state, local, and tribal governments, colleges, and nonprofits in 14 states and D.C. that all voted against President Trump in the 2024 election. This bill would signal to the Trump administration that it endorses their illegal impoundment and withholding of funds that belong to the American people, undermining Congress's power of the purse, and it would reward those actions. All congressional appropriations that have not been spent by the end of its appropriation are already returned to the Treasury. This bill instead splits those unexpended funds, where less than half would return to the Treasury. Another 49% would be extended for another year, and 2% would be paid to employees in the form of retention bonuses. Rather than producing savings, CBO will likely estimate a high score for this bill. It will cost money. In addition, the bill contains a series of technical issues that would make it almost impossible to execute. I, like all Democrats on the Oversight Committee and the Congress, want federal agencies to identify savings and eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse in programs and activities wherever possible. And we have a number of good bipartisan bills today that will do that. Unfortunately, this bill would not. I urge my colleagues to oppose it, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Any other members seek recognition on this bill? Chair recognizes Mr. Wynn.
Min?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Comer. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. So Last year, Ezra Klein wrote an op-ed. It was titled "The Republican Party's NPC Problem and Ours." And the gist of that is that House Republicans, congressional Republicans, were very comfortable conceding authority to Trump, that they were acting as non-player characters, to use a video game term, and not expressing any agency in standing up for Congress's constitutional prerogatives. Our Article 1 authority is very clear that we have exclusive rights and authorities to appropriate money. And what we've seen over the last 12 months is Donald Trump and this administration, Elon Musk, who's an on-again, off-again buddy of Trump, deciding that they're going to illegally and unconstitutionally infringe upon our Article 1 appropriations authority. And this bill, as Rep. Walkinshaw eloquently expressed, incentivizes future administrations to do the exact same thing. And so I would urge my Republican colleagues to not be non-player characters, to stand up for our constitutional rights here. This is a permanent infringement that you are authorizing and incentivizing. You are basically telling the Trump administration and future administrations that they can ignore Congress, their agencies can withhold funding, and that will just be fine. And in the future, it might be to states like yours, some of the states you represent. It might be to programs that you care about. And so I urge my Republican colleagues to stand up. This bill is just poorly constructed. It is poorly thought out. It creates adverse incentives and really ex post facto authorizes and condones the unconstitutional and illegal behavior we've seen in violating the Impoundment Control Act and infringing upon our Article 1 authority. So stand up for our constitutional rights, be members of Congress, protect our constitutional authorities here. With that, I yield back.
Chair recognizes you have a unanimous, Chair, for what purpose does Mr. Walkinshaw seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter from CREW, the Project on Government Oversight, Protect Democracy and Public Citizen, which states that the Incentivized Savings Act would, quote, create fiscal chaos rather than fiscal savings.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Ms. Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support responsible use of taxpayer dollars, but Congress, not the executive branch, controls federal spending. At a time when this body, under Republican leadership, has chosen to cede our congressional authority over and over and over again to the president, this bill is the exact opposite of what we need. Congress, all of us, need to stand up for our constitutional mandate and protect our appropriations authority, pure and simple. Russ Vought, the head of the OMB and the architect of Project 2025, has been wreaking havoc across our communities by illegally withholding funds, rescinding grants, and reallocating money without the authorization of Congress. From the very beginning of last year, right after Trump's inauguration, we heard from organization after organization after organization in our communities who unexpectedly had their funds frozen and have lived in chaos ever since. That's why the very first bill I introduced was the Office of Management and Budget Inspector General Act. We have to ensure that independent, nonpartisan oversight of the OMB exists so that we can prevent unlawful withholding of funds. H.R. 5438, the bill we are debating today, does the opposite. It rewards agencies for not spending funds Congress has already appropriated, encouraging illegal impoundment. GAO, an independent, nonpartisan watchdog, has found multiple violations of the Impoundment Control Act. Mr. Min laid them out. Mr. Walkinshaw laid them out. We have to stand up for our congressional authority. Congress should not enable this behavior. This bill would increase spending, not reduce it, and it would continue to give this rogue administration a blank check. I oppose the Incentivized Savings Act, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I support this bill. Our republic is $38 trillion in debt. That's $38,000 billion. If we were to run a $1 billion surplus, balance the budget, and run a $1 billion surplus in this body, it would require 38,000 years of billion-dollar surplus. We don't have 38,000 years to fix this thing. We have to rein in federal spending, eliminate waste, fraud, abuse, and theft. And constitutionally, under Article 1, Congress authorizes a project or an endeavor for the federal government and then funds through appropriations that authorized federal government action. And then under Article 2, the executive branch has administrative authority, and they're responsible for spending the money and executing the federal endeavor that was authorized and funded by Congress. And within the framework of the execution of that federal endeavor, the executive branch has a responsibility to audit the bureaucratic performance of that authorized and funded endeavor, and they're responsible to identify what's cited in this law as incompetence and failure. And we have a responsibility to control the expenditures therein. The money that Congress authorizes and appropriates for a particular purpose must be executed in a manner that's reflective of an absence of incompetence and failure, waste, fraud, abuse, and theft. This is common sense. So the American citizenry that we serve, Mr. Chairman, demands enhanced control of their treasure, because it is their treasure. There's no such thing as federal money. Every dollar that comes into this town has been seized from the paycheck of an American working citizen. I vigorously support this bill and many like it that codifies the efforts of President Trump's team and this executive branch, which is determined to eliminate waste, fraud, abuse, and theft from the federal sphere of spending that has driven us to a $38 trillion debt. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
I want to thank the gentleman for his comments. Any other members seek recognition? Seeing none, the question is now on the amendment in the nature of a substitute. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. The question is now favorably reporting H.R. 5438 as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the bill is ordered favorably.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, recorded vote, please.
Okay, the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Higgins, has ordered a recorded vote. As previously announced, further proceedings on the question will be postponed.